Hey, what's going on? It's me, your good friend, the good Reverend Cameron Abbott from That Nerdy Site, and I'm here with an incredible special guest. Not making a debut, but rather a return of sorts. Christian Puente, PixelBrave. How are you, my friend?
Hey there. Hello. Hey there. Oh, that's right. I'm mumble. So this is like my return to like podcast. So like I gotta start enunciating a bit better. Like I think all I just said was mumbling noises just now. So
That's fine. As you're here with me, that's what matters.
yeah.
So if you don't know what the show is, this is That Conversational Podcast. It is a podcast where, one of us here at That Nerdy Site sits down with somebody else and we have a conversation about a single topic. And if you've watched the show or listened to the show before, you know that most of the time it's about Logan talking to somebody about soccer. And not even like interest, like not even like the World Cup or anything, like specifically like one small micro division of soccer that he talks about with a friend of his. That's it. That's all that this usually is. The first episode was me talking to Ian Prichell over about One Piece, and that was a while ago. This has been a very inconsistent podcast, as Trevor is quick to remind me all the time. But I immediately... So something happened last weekend, rather, that kind of shook a large video game community to their very core. I'm talking, of course, about the best boys and girls of video games, the Kingdom Hearts fandom out there, the most wholesome of people, where you get JRPG nerds and Disney nerds and slam them together into one. Christian, you and I have had the pleasure of being on different podcasts together and talking about Kingdom Hearts before. Very in particular, I know you and I are both massive fans of, Kingdom Hearts as a series as a whole. But we've also, rather than being just on the surface fans, you and I are both really big fans of the lore and the story being told in the Kingdom Hearts franchise. And you put out there saying, hey, if anybody wants to talk about Kingdom Hearts, the Kingdom Hearts Union Cross Dark Road finale that we just got, hit me up. And so immediately my first thought was, because I saw you tweet that out, and then a day or two later, I finally caught on to the news and watched it, deep dove through everything, and I was just like, wow, okay, I need to talk to somebody about this, because there's a lot to take in about it, but just to kind of give a brief summary for people who don't know, if you're just like, hey, I want to learn about Kingdom Hearts or see what the big deal is, Kingdom Hearts is, of course, I've always best summarized it as a melodrama about a story about the war between good and evil, light and dark, centered around a protagonist named Sora and his friends, and he wields a magical weapon called the Keyblade that is, as the name would infer, often the key to solving many problems, and it's about his adventures. Granted, the series has expanded, and as we've come to know, the true central character of Kingdom Hearts has actually been one Xehanort, as revealed. When Nomura said, the Xehanort saga is over of Kingdom Hearts. But something very, very interesting happened. So, outside of the general games and the spin-offs, there's been a very particular game that has been very revelatory for a lot of people, which is Kingdom Hearts Union Cross. It's the mobile game. It's a hyper-stylized, really fun tap and play game, badge system, lots of different mechanics, mobile mechanics go into it. But it's been telling a story of what happened in a much earlier period of time in the Kingdom Hearts universe. And as I tearfully expressed on many podcasts, the names of people who had completed a certain event in the mobile game before the release of Kingdom Hearts 3 had their names added to a database that when during a very specific scene in Kingdom Hearts 3 it happens, I saw my name show up there, and when that happened, I don't know. And it wasn't like it wasn't Unsexiest Comedian, which was like my name at the time. It wasn't like it was like my OG Kingdom Hearts Union Cross like mobile name, and I was like I saw that, and I was like tears, and I'm like I was there. I also like
that's super cool. Yeah, I mean, I know we've talked about Kingdom Hearts 3 before together, but I must have missed that little detail of you saying that you were one of the Union members that were in that scene. So that's cool. Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you, man. So needless to say, like this mobile game has a so the event that you had to make it by to the Keyblade Graveyard, for the Keyblade War, event by a certain date and time. So I don't know when that was because I made it to the end of the Keyblade War before the Dark Road Union Cross like revamp for the mobile game happened, and like that whole thing with that happened. So I don't know at what point, like what the cutoff date was it, but it's also I've replayed that scene trying to capture like my name coming up, and it's never come up again. And I know that millions of people completed that scene, or like completed that part in the game. So like granted, there is like as vast as that possibility is, there is entirely a potentially that somebody had a similar enough that I would have been able like missed like an underscore or something somewhere, of having of that similar of a name. Now, is that possible? I doubt it, because originally I thought they're like, how did they know that was me? But so just keep playing that scene for
just keep playing it again and again. What name should we be looking for?
It is Death Guy's Oblivion, which is DTHGSOBLVN. Which is like
specific. We'll find it. If that's very specific.
Yeah. If it exists, if it's out there. I had that moment with it. The mobile game has been something of a staple in like the telling of like the foretellers. The Lost Masters, all that stuff. But so like I have a deep history with Kingdom Hearts, but for you, and I just expressed in a very specific way what Kingdom Hearts means to me. But Christian, tell me, like, what is your background and like history with Kingdom Hearts coming forward? In particular, the mobile game, and like what got you into it, and how you like what you've been doing playing through it.
So Kingdom Hearts as a whole has probably been like the biggest, property that's meant the most to me, outside of Star Wars, like, all the way up to like age, like through most of my life, like high school, like Star Wars was like the big thing, like, oh, I love Jedi and everything like that. And actually, Nomura is like a huge Star Wars fan and puts a lot of that into Kingdom Hearts. So it kind of only makes sense that like as I got older and started getting introduced into games and RPGs and Kingdom Hearts, like I felt equally, if not more. I mean, definitely at this point now, it's more of a love for Kingdom Hearts, and it's just this property that means a lot to me, and it's something that I enjoy, following, whether it's in the games, the manga, the fandom and stuff. It's just a really important game series to me, which is why when the mobile game came out and I found that like, man, so it's I don't play mobile games in general, and I was like, I'm gonna make an exception for this, but I just couldn't latch onto it. And it's designed to, it's designed for a certain type of gamer who like has the time and is willing to put in the effort and also like learn the mechanics, like, and it's for people who have the time to get good. And I just wasn't out of that place when this game came out. And it's also structured a lot differently than a lot of games in that like the story comes in pieces. You get a little bit piece of story, and then you got to do these missions and then wait for the next update. And I kind of just figured I'm not gonna play this game after all. I kind of got, as much as I love the game series, I'm also kind of like reached a point in my adulthood or my life as a gamer, whatever you want to call it, where I'm like, you know what, some of these games I am gonna just have to just like watch a Let's Play or something like that. I didn't play Last of Us 2, but I watched Andy's Let's Play, and that's how I experienced it. And it gets to that point. We all have our different, our lives are busy, careers, things like that, and so Union Cross was the kind of thing that I consumed through the cutscenes. That again, it's a very loyal fan base out there that would fan translate the Japanese cutscenes before the American releases came out, and and lots of prominent members who would post summaries or collections of cutscenes, and so that's how I ended up following the game all the way up until the finale here. So that's been my experience with Kingdom Hearts and Union Cross / Dark Road when that became an addition to the universe as well. Yeah,
and here's what I'm going to say: you're not wrong to do that. I think that one of the definitely one of the worst problems with any fandom is gatekeeping, and I don't know about you. I've never really encountered anybody who's gate-kept Kingdom Hearts. I think that it's such a unique fan base that it's oh, you want to know more about Kingdom Hearts? Let me tell you, and pull out my charts and graphs and show you about what Kingdom Hearts is about. I don't I think people with Kingdom Hearts are more than willing to share. I think that's totally fair. Like you said, it takes time. I got to the Keyblade Graveyard and I completed that, up to that update, and then I never went back. I've always meant to go back and play the post the Dandelion era content. And because that has to do with some of the characters that we see in later games versus the more ancestral stuff, but I just didn't do it. But when the finale came out, I'm okay, I don't know what half of these characters are, so I went back, watched the compilations about who these characters were, saw the story, and then I was oh, okay, cool. Went back, rewatched, I had started the finale, stopped, went back, watched a bunch of stuff. That's why it took me a couple of days to get to the actual finale. Right. And when I got there, I was just what in the world, you son of a, what? But so yeah, and honestly, I really don't think that there's a problem with anybody who, if your experience with Kingdom Hearts, you're oh, I love Kingdom Hearts. It's what's your favorite game? Oh, I've watched just Let's Plays of it. Cool. 100%. Yeah. You are a part of the fandom. You don't have to press a button as long as you enjoy because the core part of that game series is about being positive, accepting people, and knowing having that Kingdom Hearts is filled with light. Having an open heart and knowing that Kingdom Hearts is light.
Yeah, and I've felt less guilty. I don't even think guilty is the right word for it, but I've been more accepting of myself in that, choosing to watch cutscenes and stuff, because I, am now a huge fan of these really big name, Kingdom Hearts YouTubers and stuff, and even them, the Gamers Joint is a really popular reactor and huge member of the community. And when Melody of Memory came out, he just, out of the whole game of Melody of Memory, there's only about 30 minutes of new story content, and that was literally just tacked at the end. And I think when he reacted to it, he wasn't reacting to his own playthrough. He also just hey, the video's up, I'm just going to watch that. Literally today, I was watching somebody who was posting their reactions to Kingdom Hearts 3 for the first time. And, they are actually playing through the game. But when it got to the secret endings and to the extra secret endings that you have to unlock by beating these crazy boss battles, she just well, there's a YouTube video, I'm gonna watch that, and it's just it definitely is now we have these almost it's almost the opposite of gatekeeping, where we have these players in the community that we know we can rely on to get through all of the hurdles for us and provide us who just like the story, could provide us with those cutscenes, so it's cool that we have some people out there watching our back for those of us who don't have the time to commit to all the grinding and stuff.
For sure, yeah. No, like I said, it's very interesting to see a gaming community that is as passionate as the Kingdom Hearts fandom, but is as open to it. And I think part of it comes back to, I remember on the GameFAQs forums, people being okay, how do I get the secret ending to this? Mm-hmm. Or how do I do it? And eventually YouTube came around and people were like, don't bother, just watch the YouTube video.
Yeah.
Much easier. Enjoy it. And I think that was the thing, is like we had these like secret videos built into the game that you had to do these insane challenges for. But eventually people are just like, I'm not good enough. I just like Disney stuff. And I like this Kingdom Hearts stuff, and I want to know what happened in the secret ending that won't get an answer for it for years. But no, I love the I totally loved your approach to that, and I think that's totally, like I mentioned, it's great. Yeah. If you enjoy Kingdom Hearts, you enjoy Kingdom Hearts. Now, we are going to start busting into some spoilery stuff. So if you have not caught up to what's going on, or you are interested in what we've said and you want to go watch like these cutscenes to understand the whole story of Union Cross, go do that. It's totally worth it. 100% worth it. Cannot emphasize that enough. If you're like, hey, I want to go and play the game, play the game. It's like, if you can get into it and you can really, and you like it with how it is now, now that it's finished, the quote unquote grinding aspect of it is a lot less. But it's still pretty grindy at certain points in time, but I will also never forget upgrading my Keyblade to its max level and being like, look at this amazing Keyblade. But before we get into spoiler stuff, real quick, favorite Keyblade?
I mean, I'm always bad at naming them, but it's the frozen one that you use in Kingdom Hearts 3.
Dude, yes, that one's so good.
It was my sick. The one with once I got it, it was my go-to because, well, first off, it already looks awesome as it is, but when you unlock the special abilities with it, it's just the particle effects and the animation and everything. It's such it's gorgeous. Yeah.
It really is. I was amazed with the upgrading. Like the more you upgraded it, like the more intricate look that they took.
I didn't notice that, and the first time I played Kingdom Hearts 3, I played it in Japanese, and I didn't even know that you could upgrade your Keyblade.
Because you were playing it in Japanese.
So there's these tutorials and stuff, and I just was just playing it. Just I got the Keyblades, and I could switch out my Keyblades, and I knew I was doing something right by getting the abilities to do their thing, but I did not know that there was this whole Keyblade Forge element where you could actually upgrade your Keyblade, and so that was funny.
That's fine, man. I think but then that was something for you to rediscover later on, or for you to discover it later on, and getting to experience that. You still got to experience it, and I think that's what really matters about it. No, I think I loved the Frozen one. If I had to say that I have a favorite, it might be I am extremely fond of the Pumpkin King. I mean, it's Nightmare Before Christmas from Kingdom Hearts 1.
It's Goth AF, so. Yeah,
Goth AF. It has the skeleton face on it. I was not a big Nightmare Before Christmas merch sucker. I was not a Hot Topic kid, but boy did I always like that aesthetic. I love the macabre. I love that aesthetic. So it's a tie between that one and I have to say the Ultima weapon from Kingdom Hearts 1 is still top tier for me. Just the sword shape inside of it. Oh, you know what? Actually, I take all of it back. I totally forgot. My favorite one is the as has been playfully titled, the LGBTQ Keyblade that Riku and Sora both use.
I was wondering if you were going to name it, because I didn't know if it had a name. But yeah, I know what you're talking about. It's that one where they unite their powers together and together wield that Keyblade.
That Keyblade. Sora's is a rainbow, and Riku's is edgy. But it's this awesome Keyblade that I just love. So yeah, that's my favorite, which is kind of cheating because it's the super Keyblade, but anyway.
Yeah. I'll add my own little addendum is that out of usage, again, because of the finisher moves, it was for the Frozen one. But I think just purely aesthetic, if you could just hand me my own Keyblade from the series, I think it would be, as just for the aesthetic and the look alone, the Oathkeeper. it's just so
Oathkeeper is so good.
fantastical. It's gorgeous.
It's classic.
Yeah,
it's classic. Yeah. It's gorgeous. It symbolizes a very important thing. It's very much it is the symbol, like it is a Keyblade built on the bond between Kairi and Sora. So of course it's like this beautiful, gorgeous Keyblade. It's absolutely lovely. No, Oathkeeper I think is most people's, like a lot of people's favorite is Oathkeeper. Oathkeeper, Oblivion. Beautiful. I think if you're a Riku, like you like Riku more or Kairi more, depending on which one. Yeah. Granted, like I loved. I love those Keyblade. I love Oathkeeper. It's great. It's up there for me for sure. Roxas dual wielding Oathkeeper and Oblivion, like top tier, awesome moments.
That's why they include it, and every time they do every time they update the intro, they always put that scene in there.
For sure, because it's so great.
It's classic.
So yeah, let's go ahead and hop into some spoilery stuff. I'm just gonna leap off right off the bat. We were Xehanort the entire time.
When you said when you were talking again about how Nomura said like this is it for the Xehanort saga, and it was all the Xehanort saga. Like it's just always been Xehanort, and it's
always been Xehanort. It's like one final is he like the whole joke of Kingdom Hearts 3 was he was going to make 13 Xehanorts or whatever. Mm-hmm. And so the joke was like, did you get Norded? Or did you get Norded? Aqua got Norded? And it's like, what? Am I also Xehanort? And it's like, yes, you were also Xehanort the entire time.
All along. Mm-hmm.
That whole, also like the revelation that like the Dream Eaters are the
Keyblade wielders. My interpretation is that they are like a fusion. Like they're Chirithy and the wielder themselves fused to become a Dream Eater.
From what I understood, I think that's a good interpretation of it. I think it's accurate, but I think it's the Chirithy become Dream Eaters to surround and protect the heart of the Keyblade wielders, which prevents their hearts from falling to darkness, but at the same time, which is also like very beautiful because it's like these Chirithy companions that you've had this entire time.
Yeah.
They become the Dream Eaters, and then like I was watching some compilations of like scenes that hit different now.
Oh yeah,
and Sora going back to seeing his friends and like the single tear and everything. And it's like, I was not expecting this. I was not expecting this.
Yeah, so many scenes have such a weird new context, knowing that. The new just. I lost my train of thought, but like so many scenes have new context after the revelations of this finale.
Yeah.
Like just to name a few myself. I was rewatching. I'm always watching new people post their Let's Plays of playing Kingdom Hearts 3 because it's literally it's not only my favorite Kingdom Hearts game. It's just literally my favorite game. Like I'm going to solitary confinement. I can take one title with me. I want to take Kingdom Hearts 3.
There you go.
Yeah, so I was rewatching it, and like some scenes I want to mention that for me have new context is that again these are all spoilers, but when Xehanort finally accepts that he's lost, and so he hands the Keyblade over to Sora, it's our former protagonist handing over and giving and acknowledging the new our new protagonist.
But it's also passing on. It's like. Weirdly, like retroactively giving, like, because it's like, how did Sora wield a Keyblade? It wasn't because of Ventus. It wasn't because of any of this. It's because, like, you could make the argument, and the theory is that because Xehanort gives it to Sora in like this sort of time paradox, Sora has always been a Keyblade wielder because of that. But it's like, okay, so Terra gave it to Riku, Aqua gives it to Kairi. And we always assumed that Ventus's heart in like that Sora's was protecting was how Sora wielded it. But that is potentially that's also a possibility because it also ties into the 3, passing it on to the 3. Mm-hmm. But you still have like that also that like that of the master passing it to the apprentice moment too. Like it's this weird. There's this weird passing on the torch, giving the Keyblade over the Keyblade. It's wild. That's such a great moment. You said, did you have any others though?
There was one more after Ven wakes up and him and Aqua are catching up at Yensid's tower. He's talking about, since he's been in Sora's heart, he's always experienced Sora's adventures, but as if a dream. And he's like, oh yeah, like I remember seeing this and that, and I saw these funny creatures, and it's like, that has totally new meaning, and that those, we always knew, oh, he was seeing Dream Drop Distance, but now he was seeing his fellow companions, because once upon a time, Ven was, a dandelion, and those were his fellow companions that he was seeing, but now he saw them as these Dream Eater creatures. He didn't know, and so that's his former companions there, but in sleep.
Now an interesting, yeah. So like we know that when a Keyblade wielder dies, at least in that moment they were able to continue on and be protected, prevent themselves from falling to darkness.
Yeah.
But now it's like, what is the next game where like, at what point do we turn all the Dream Eaters back into Keyblade wielders, right?
Yeah, I think that's been...
Can we even do that? I don't even know.
I think so. Master and Masters in this finale, a lot of people might interpret it as that he was saying this specifically about his apprentices, but I could also extrapolate that he means this applies to everyone. But he was talking about, he's telling his whole master plan to Lucio, and Lucio's like, that's horrible, like, it's too much of a sacrifice, all this stuff that you're setting up. And he says, I mean, I don't look at it as a sacrifice, because I'm also trying to come up with a cure for all this destruction that I'm about to do. I'm about to do some bad stuff, but at the end of the day, I'm also coming up with like a magic button that'll just kind of make it all good after it goes bad. So I think
the ends justify the means, man.
Kind of. I think. Masters. I mean, which doesn't bode well for him. I don't like that. He's planning it that way, but to the point of, will we ever see them come back again? You might take what he said there as in, there might be a plan to restore anyone who was sleeping, and wake them up again to their former selves.
And he might have just been referencing his apprentices, but that could also follow through and apply to everybody else as well. So, for sure. No, there is so much. Also, Lucio being like a sneaky bad boy.
Mm-hmm.
Like Lucio, turns out Xigbar, Brian, was actually Brain the entire time.
Mm-hmm.
You nasty naughty Lucio, continuing forward.
So I'm still not sure. So that's what I'm still not sure about, is that we see at one point Lucio meets Brain and says, you're Union leader? Okay. It's too bad you only get one lifetime, and then it's fade to black. The assumption there is that, I don't know if you follow the same assumption, but the assumption is that, Xigbar said, or, Lucio, said that he jumped into different bodies, and so the assumption is that Brain was the first body he jumped into.
Mm-hmm.
But and then we see that's kind of almost confirmed, because at the very end, there's a scene where Lucio, with his hood, with his Keyblade, with the box, are in the great Keyblade graveyard. He takes his hood off, and now we see Brain's face. So that is the assumption is, hey, yes, we are confirming that Lucio must have said, too bad, this is where your life ends. I'm taking over your body, and then now I'm here in the Keyblade graveyard. The contradiction to that, though, which is just also part of the nature of Kingdom Hearts and how it's written, is that Lucio has a report where he says, I did what I was supposed to do. I gave my Keyblade to an apprentice, and he's going to pass it on. And in the meantime, I, Keyblade-less, will continue to watch and go into body after body after body. And so if he said in that last report, I am now Keyblade-less, then that would not be him, taking over Brain and holding, that Xehanort Keyblade.
Well, so I think that it can, because there's nothing to say that it wasn't Lucio in Brain's body passing on the Keyblade.
That's true.
Because he still had the Keyblade when he confronted Brain. So when he does that, he confronts Brain. He has a Keyblade, and he passes it on.
Mm-hmm.
Because we know this because eventually Odin, who we find out in the Dark Road, game and story, is the master of Ericus and Xehanort.
Yeah.
So, and we know that the Keyblade that Xehanort eventually gets is Odin's Keyblade that he received from his master.
Yeah.
So we know that does transfer going forward.
Mm-hmm.
And I love that idea of because in Dark Road they introduce Odin, who's this has the name Odin and is dressed up to look like an old wizard. In a brown cloak and I'm like, oh, okay, total Odin, referencing there. That's great. Love it.
Mm-hmm.
Love the mythology that they play with for that. And Dark Road is just a fascinating expansion because it also shows that. So when the Master of Masters meets Xehanort and says, "Hey, yeah," and introduces him to the idea of controlling darkness. It's interesting because we also find out from Lushu's revelation when he's talking to the Master of Masters, the Master wants to destroy darkness.
Yeah, that was something that I don't know why I was so surprised, because he's so good at playing coy about his intentions, and there's a back cover is one of my favorite pieces of Kingdom Hearts media, and that you get the fully voiced Master of Master with fully articulating everything, because the mobile game is this very cute 2D stylized thing, but very limited movement, whereas the 3D movie, it's completely performed and acted and everything, and so his personality really comes across, and there are plenty of times in the movie where he just seems like he's really up to no good, and he even hints at it, in the Remind DLC when he's, like you said in that scene, talking to Zane or young Zane, and it's like, "Who are you?" And he's like, "I don't know. I could be a scholar, an artist, or planning the destruction of everything." And so it just seems so obvious, at first, when you meet him, oh, this guy's totally playing his apprentices against each other. This guy's bad, he's totally set everything up to just go sideways, and he's going to be who you have to go against. I mean, that still might be the case, but the fact that he is just so straight up, everything I'm doing might be effed up, but it's because I absolutely, without a doubt, shadow of whatever, just hate darkness. And yeah, Lushu's, talked a bit about that as well, like you said. But,
and Lushu even asks why. He goes, you're why are you so obsessed with it? He goes, in my time, I watched all my friends be the darkness as it is now, this ethereal kind of entities. They had a physical form, and we fought them, and they killed my friends. So they killed the people yeah.
I think he even says that some of them got taken over too.
Yeah, some of them got taken over by dark. Some of them fell to darkness. He's the darkness ruined my life, so I'm going to destroy it. And this is all part of my plan. All of you have been part of my plan to eventually destroy darkness. And if we remember what we've learned from darkness and light aren't these things are in balance, and all this other sort of stuff that we've learned over the past several games about these are natural forces. And for it to be okay, cool, we're gonna have to defend the darkness from the Lost Masters and the Master of Masters. I'm super excited for this. I cannot wait for the next part of the saga in this. And also he's I'm going to go to a world of fiction, so we understand.
Just about to say,
yeah, we understand more about what is this Shibuya that we see. Is it our world? Is it the world that The World Ends With You is? And it's yes and no. It's this entire different kind of world that isn't a world of light and darkness of reality. It's a world of fiction where anything is possible, which is extremely dangerous when you think about it, because the Master of Masters is there.
Yeah. And I was wondering if he was there. Well, it's just every time I think about something, I immediately am thinking of something else that counteracts it. I was is he trapped there? But then I remembered that, after he disappeared, he eventually reappeared to talk to Xehanort in that scene that we just talked about. And so it's hard to tell if he's there and can come and go, or if he is trapped there, or like it's very, there's so much we don't know, but so much to speculate on with the little crumbs of information that we have. I mean, a lot of people make it sound...
I can say...
Go ahead.
Yeah, the one thing I would say for sure, though, is he intends to form Kingdom Hearts there. And we get that impression from him because at the end of the secret trailer of the standard Kingdom Hearts 3, he throws up a heart over the moon to give an inference of Kingdom Hearts. That's my personal theory, and a theory that a lot of people have, which is he intends to use this world of fiction, which is more malleable than the physical world, to create a sort of Kingdom Hearts that he can then control to then destroy the darkness. So a Kingdom Hearts that is not trapped in darkness surrounding it, but and there's a whole who knows what the plan is going forward. Because let me tell you, I didn't expect to actually be Xehanort the entire time that I was playing this mobile game for several years. Right. And for them to be like, oh yeah, guess what? You are Xehanort. And it's like, what?
Which it just seems so implausible when Dark Road got introduced, and the opening scene is the memories of, Union Cross and then fading into Xehanort dreaming about it. And it just seems like, well, how can that be a reincarnation, or how can that be him, or Kingdom Hearts just has never... Kingdom Hearts has touched everything. Time travel, multiple universes, world lines, and dreams. But it has never taught... it had never brought up reincarnation. It even went into hey, when a soul is born, it's born as a heart first, and then even that it covered. About hearts being born and having cognizance before even being born into a body. But it never talked about does this world have room for reincarnation? And now we know that it does. And which now just it's go ahead.
Yeah, it's not exactly reincarnation, but rather it's the remnants of your soul dissipate and are inherited. It's like a reincarnation.
Yeah,
Xehanort is still himself. He's still Xehanort. But he has inherited this heart lineage from the character that you play. In my case, it was Death Guise of Oblivion.
Yeah, the word Charity uses that your heart will melt with another, I think is what it says. Yeah, and so
melt into another. Yeah.
Yeah, that's very, very interesting. And so now there's, when Back Cover the movie came out, so many people we're joking oh, what if because there's so many similar traits between the Union leaders and the current cast, Ira reminds me a lot of Terra, or Gula because he's so young kind of is like Soren, and people were making all these comparisons, and we're joking about oh yeah, what if Ava it becomes a reincarnation of Kairi or something like that. But I never did. I just completely dismissed all those because we
dismissed all that.
We don't talk about reincarnation. That's not a thing. And I know I'm using reincarnation in this terms. Obviously, it's something different.
It's okay.
Yeah.
I think reincarnation is the right term to use for this because it is technically a kind of reincarnation.
Yeah. And
I want to specify it for the people listening out there.
Yeah. But now it's completely a valid theory of any of those.
Yeah.
Yep.
And so anything is possible in Kingdom Hearts, man. Anything's possible.
So now people are joking oh, maybe Sora is a reincarnation of Ephemer or something like that, or there's some really fun theories out there. Speaking of Ephemer, here's my little theory: is that I think Ephemer is the old man in the blue cloak that brings Xehanort to the islands. That's my little theory.
Oh wow! So his last act before he passes over the Keyblade Order.
Build Scala and
he built Scala from the remnants of
Daybreak Town.
Daybreak Town, because we do know Daybreak Town. What a great hey, that underwater part of the boss fight where you're in those ruins? Yeah. Guess what? That's Daybreak Town. Yeah. Didn't you know? It's you're kidding me. This is wild. Yeah. Going back and seeing people being yep, because here's this, and here's this. It was there the entire time. He literally built it on top of the ruins of Daybreak Town, which is just the coolest. Yeah. Ephemer has always been this totally cool dude. You have that. You have, oh man, there's so many things that just got answered. It's well, what happened to some of these characters and what ended the whole situation with the finale is absolutely nuts. But what was really incredible is we got to see the ephemeral darkness, like the actual beings of darkness.
Mm-hmm.
And oh my gosh, can we talk? Let's talk about it. Your player character duping the darkness that they've been possessed by it.
Oh man, that is
in order to sacrifice yourself for your friends to make sure they get out okay. You dupe the darkness into thinking that you've been possessed by it. You dupe your friends, and then you reveal after trapping the darkness, these ephemeral dark beings, trapping them forever, that actually I was never possessed at all.
Yeah.
So enjoy being trapped here forever. And
they're so scary after that too.
Oh yeah, I know.
They start freaking out and flying all over. Oh, very scary.
Also, the fact that you have to fight your character with Ephemer and
Scold.
Yeah, you have to fight with Ephemer and Scold. Have to fight your character, and your character has their this character you've been upgrading this entire time. You now have to fight against. That's such a wild boss battle concept. That you are now the ultimate bad, and your friends have to fight you. And you have to play as the friends to do it, and it's great. I loved that entire last section, leading up to these twist revelations, because your character throughout the entire game has always kind of been a trickster. You've always been a wily trickster character, which is the character you play isn't chosen as a dandelion,
right?
But somehow because you literally have to fight against what's his name, the unicorn,
Ira.
Ira, yeah, you have to fight against Ira in the Keyblade Graveyard during the Keyblade War.
Yeah.
Gosh, by the way, that entire section of the game where the entire orders of the foretellers and their unions have broken down, and now there's going to be just a massive brawl in this random place, and it's this massive war between Keyblade wielders where you are killing people. You were just straight up just killing people.
It's so sad.
We had this little rivalry about who could raise the most points, a house thing, like Harry Potter, like Hogwarts, and it's now you're just straight up murdering these people.
Order 66 again, because there's so many Star Wars comparisons that you can make. Is bad. It's one of the worst things ever. But it was it was a product of propaganda and programming into these bioweapons, but the Keyblade War, and so it was a tragedy to Yoda's I feel all of my Jedi sons and daughters, they're dying, but that was at the hands of what became an enemy. And this, though, it's just friends, best of friends, all turning on each other.
Your rivals, your friends, you guys have been fighting the Heartless together. You've been
comrades,
you've been trying to figure out these comrades, your nakama, your friends beside you, that you've fought massive creatures of darkness with each other, and you've been there for each other, and now lines have been drawn in the sand, and you have to fight, and it's just this incredible, awesome thing, but I love the revelation that it's who actually started the Keyblade War, and it turns out that the bell ringing that started the Keyblade War was Ava and Lucio. Ava wants answers from Lucio. Lucio plays with her and toys around with her.
Yeah.
So she attacks him, and the moment a Keyblade wielder attacks another Keyblade wielder in Daybreak Town, starts it. And then everything, it goes. And the way it escalates, it's just the craziest thing. The fact that you're fighting each other like this, and then you get into the next stage of it, where you have the new unions. And you have the mystery of the missing union leader and all sorts of stuff.
I was so captivated by the union leaders, the original ones in back cover. I never thought I was how are they going to top these cool? I like all of them. Envy, Gula, Ira. I think they're all fascinating. Ava too, Lucio, and then they're well, now here's the new class, and they were actually all super cool. They were. It was
awesome. It's especially since like we know some of them will show up later.
Yeah, exactly.
As nobodies. It's so great, man. It's so good. Union Cross is so underestimated as a story, that it's telling.
It's Kingdom Hearts' best kept secret. Like I can't really believe it's like it's hard enough getting people to play Chain of Memories because of the card system, or 358 because it's a 3D platformer on the DS. Like there are these barriers to entry that some people are just like, oh, it's just not for me. But man, like a mobile game with from what I understand, literally hundreds of missions you got to go on, to make your progress through the campaign. Like,
yeah, when I thought about getting back into it, and yeah, okay, cool. Well, how many chapters are there? How many missions are there? I'm not catching up to this anytime soon. I'll get back to it later. I'll get back to it when it's done.
Yeah, and it is. It's like the hardest one to get into, but it is like one of the best stories.
The characters, the stories, the fact that I love the customization in that game. It's so fun. I love it. And whether it's your Wishing Star Keyblade, when you upgrade that going forward, and it ends up being this super kick-ass intricate Keyblade, is awesome. I was actually really disappointed that you could, when you upgraded it in Kingdom Hearts 3, it didn't take on, the more illustrious forms. That was sad and disappointing. I was upset about it.
There's plenty of room. There's plenty of room for improvement because, dude, Kingdom Hearts is going nowhere. This is just going to be there's already 3 games named already. Not named, but mentioned, I think. Mm-hmm.
Well, 3 properties. We don't know if they're specifically games, but
yeah.
Because we thought Back Cover was going to be some sort of game, and it should be noted we shouldn't expect that all these properties will be games because Nomura has done.
I gotta tell myself that, yeah,
yeah, because I love Kingdom Hearts so much, and the exploration of Union Cross, has been such such a wonder, just such an absolute blessing to have as a Kingdom Hearts fan, that you have this game that a lot of people will just look over. And you're right, it's the best kept secret of Kingdom Hearts. That this story with all these wonderful characters and answers to your questions from the 3 games is in this game. And the finale, I think, of Union Cross has paid off more than the finale of any other Kingdom Hearts thing ever. Just the revelations it gives you, the answers it gives you. Does it make you ask more questions? Yes, but it does it in such a completely satisfying way versus Sora dissipating into nothing, just heartbreaking in that moment. Just what happened?
Where is he now?
Yeah.
So, there's still so many questions to be speculated on, but it does take its time to clear up a few things. It's very specific about where, that Larium is in Woodlands, Elorena, she's, that's in Castle of, she's in Maleficent's area, right? Or, no, that's still...
No.
That's still the Woodlands, but that's in, the cliffside, where she falls, where the what's her name, the witch falls, but and obviously we see Ephemer in the ruins. Ven is in this Keyblade graveyard with a body approaching him. I don't know if that's Xehanort or what. But we never
because we know that they all ended up at different points in time and space.
But we never see where Skull ends up. I mean, we can infer where she ends up if you're on if you're also on the thinking that she's Subject X that became friends with Axel and
well, that's been a big question because is Skull Subject X or is Ava Subject X?
Yeah.
That's always been the big.
There's people on that debate that. Me personally, I think I'm more in line that it's Skull, but if that's the assumption,
I'm the opposite. I actually more think that it's Ava.
Mm-hmm. So, but the thing about it is that but that aside, it still begs the question. We see where every Union leader is except for Skull at the end. She's in the capsule, but then we don't see where it takes her.
But that's the same thing we have with Ava. We don't know where Ava ended up either, because when the Lost Masters are summoned by Luxu, Ava doesn't show up, but Luxu acts like he knows where she's at. Mm-hmm. So, because he says Ava has her own thing that she had to do, so she's not with us. And like, it's crazy, man. It's wild because like I want it to be Ava because I want it to be like this conflict of. I think that would really throw a wrench into the Lost Masters, because if Ava sides with if Ava was Subject X, so she is now tied to I almost call them Axel, but to
Lee and Isa.
Lee and thank you. I cannot remember their names for the life of me, but if she has a connection to them. Then she has a connection to like newer people. What does that do to like the Master of Masters plans with her? But she was like Scold would also be a great thing because Scold, like we know we would finally know what happened to Scold. I think it's really sad that Ephemer. I think it's really sad that it looks like Ephemer was by himself. Like he never got reunited with anybody.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
that makes me sad. But
so it's been a while since I've looked at. There's every theory comes with like a whole forum and pages of comments. So like, I figure I would have to dig these up again. But sometimes I come across stuff and I'm like, okay, I'm like that could just be coincidence, but I'm also happy to jump on that. So like something that was a bit of a coincidence that that has been one of the things that I'm like, oh, okay, cool. That kind of also makes me think that it might be Skull as Subject X. Is that like. Her motif is like stars, and that would line up with like Axel's sun motif and like Isa's moon motif, and so like that's and so that was and I think someone said like the name Scold vaguely translate to something that has to do with future, and so like her being in the future, so that little things like that, which again absolutely could be coincidence. Go ahead.
So if I recall correctly, Scold is a Valkyrie who's able to see the future. Or no, she's one of the Scold. Scold, and another one. I think they're foretellers or they're witches. They're like it's in Norse mythology, basically. Once again, tying in Odin, like Scold being a name. Okay, cool. But then later when he introduced Nomura brings in Odin, and you're like,
yeah.
What's like Nomura?
Yeah, he loves
what you doing?
He loves taking bits and pieces of everything, and throwing it into the sauce that is Kingdom Hearts, like making all.
I appreciate. Yeah, I appreciate him coming up with like using real names rather than made up names, like,
or at least having inspiration, like a lot of the Union leaders, their names came from like the Seven Sins. Which, by the way, that's the fact that each of them, they were given those names based off of Seven Sins, and I'm thinking that maybe he's already straight up said, hey, yeah, I'm building up these Union leaders so that darkness will come and take the bait and infect them, but like the hearts will be so strong that they can't. And so I was wondering if their names are just more specific, like a darkness that embodies pride will go after Lucio, a body that, takes after gluttony will go after, I forget who is it envy or, like I that's what I'm wondering if the darkness, if the sin that they're based off of is going to be the kind of darkness that they will have to take on, when it comes to that part of the plan.
Yeah. For me, I think that's incredibly, like, normally I'd be like, I don't know about that because that's getting too descriptive about darkness, which has been very ephemeral throughout, like very, not ephemeral, but like ethereal, very like loose, like not really a physical thing. But they do come from a time when the darkness, even though they had like the darkness, the beings of darkness had thrown away their bodies to become darkness itself. It's like they were much more of a focused and like there was a much more of a consciousness to them as we see at the end of Union Cross. Like Union Cross saying, oh yeah, by the way, here are beings of darkness, like actual darkness, not heartless, actual darkness.
Yeah.
I can see that being the case that they have to fit, like they will embody a darkness like a sin that they represent. Granted, it could also just be a name thing, but that's Kingdom Hearts.
Yeah, that's Nomura. Yeah, but yeah, I think like I recall him saying like when they were in the more vague form, they started losing their will, and so I think that's why that's gonna be an incentive for them to start actually taking over these bodies, like the master's planning, and that way they don't lose that will.
Yeah, it's that. Like, his revelation, what we have going forward with the world of fiction, and like what comes next is just could be anything, which is wild to think about. Like we were like, Kingdom Hearts 3 could be anything. Now it really can be anything.
Yeah.
And it's nuts, and it's absolutely phenomenal. Man. Well, that's so yeah, we've basically gone over what I want to talk about. I wanted to just gush about like theories and stuff coming from the end of Cross. So, and
because it's such a niche part of the community, that hopefully, now that it's over, maybe people will be putting out even more summaries. Here, like, people leading up to Kingdom Hearts 3, there were already so many. Here's all the Kingdom Hearts stories in 15 minutes, 5 minutes, whatever. Like, I'm hoping that there will be even more and more explanations for Union Cross. That way, people who are a bit more casual fans, who maybe only play the mainline ones, will hopefully get in on. And that's why I put the call out, like, hey, like, they didn't want to talk about this because I have a lot of Kingdom Hearts, fans as friends, but even then, like, not all of them, are watching, or some of them have an interest but haven't gotten around to it. So it was. So I'm very glad to be here and talking the good word of Nomura with you.
For sure, dude. If you hadn't said anything, I wouldn't have looked it up. The fact that you put out the call out there, I was like, huh. And then immediately, like in the first couple minutes, I was like, oh, there's more way. This is intense. I better catch up.
It's next level.
Yeah. So I will say though that like that's why I wanted to have you on specifically, because you're an old friend, you're an old friend of mine personally on a personal level between the two of us, but you're also, you used to be part of the site, and you are always in my heart. I love you dearly as a friend, as a fellow great passionate fan of the things that we love. But with that being said, I'm like, if you've heard all this, if you're like, wow, I really want to understand how this all plays out, play Union Cross or watch the videos. Like I said, there's no gatekeeping here. I really do. What I think we need to do is we got to figure out how to put a campaign together to get Easy Allies to do a new retrospective for Kingdom Hearts that includes Union Cross. This.
Oh my gosh, that would be huge.
Hearing Brandon Jones's trailer voice talk about Kingdom Hearts is one of the best things in the world. So
yeah, I will say, if anybody wants to get into the story but they know that they don't have the time, again, there are many YouTubers out there that have been doing a great job, like kind of providing a lot of like info out there for people and condensing the story and stuff. And one in particular I want to shout out. His name is Damo. It's just, I think there's some numbers in his name too, but if you just YouTube Damo with Kingdom Hearts or Union Cross, he that's what got me caught up, was watching his video. He has such a really good way of explaining the story, and also giving context for like, well, this is what we think that might mean, so that's who I would recommend. Anybody who wants to get in on the stories, to YouTube Damo and Kingdom Hearts or Union Cross. And I wish I remember his full, like, what the actual name is, because I think it's Damo with like some numbers attached, but that's a good place to start. Sure.
I also want to give a shout out to the phenomenal members of the community who play the Japanese game, like screen capture it and then translate it, but do it in a way where they actually replace the text in the bubbles.
Yeah, it looks appropriate. Yeah, it's above and beyond.
It looks perfect. It looks perfect. Y'all are phenomenal. Love you dearly.
Did you? This guy Damo, not this most recent update, but the second to last story update, the Master Masters has like, this monologue that, because it's a mobile game, it's just text. He got Ray Chase to voice that. I don't know if he did it through a cameo or through what. Yeah,
he did. Okay, I have to watch that. That sounds amazing.
Yeah, he got Ray Chase, who is the voice of Master. I don't know what legalities are going on here, because what
kind of magic is that?
If he just had voiced, we did a fan sub project. We found something that sounded like, unless he's lying, it says voiced by Ray Chase. And
yeah, but like also Ray Chase would probably love to get like, hey, it could be a really expensive cameo. It could be a really expensive cameo, for sure.
Mm-hmm. That's what I was thinking. Either an expensive cameo or something, but either way, it's done pretty well. There's only a few lines that I'm like, I think if there was an actual voice director in there, offering feedback, it would be different. But 9 out of 10 of dialogue, though, check it out. But that's just another example of how cool this community can be. Yeah.
But yeah, thank you so much for joining me. For everybody watching, you can check out more podcasts that we do at That Nerdy site here. Gonna give a quick shout out we gave our shout outs about what we want people to look out for. But if you want to follow Christian, you can follow him at PixelBrave on Twitter, everywhere else. Highly suggested. He is a wonderful friend and a great follow. And he'll, like I said, I wouldn't know about this if this had happened if it wasn't for him. So a massive shout out to you, Christian. Love you dearly. Of course, if you want to see more of me and the rest of That Nerdy site, you can always check out our youtube.com/thatnerdysite, thatnerdysite.com, podcast services around the globe. If you like this video, give it a like. If you like our channel, subscribe. If anything else, write a review, whatever you want to do to let people know that, hey, That Conversational podcast is a cool part of That Nerdy site. That way I can show it to Trevor and be like, see, it's worth it. It was worth building the assets for this. I'm joking. Trevor, I'm joking. Please don't get angry at me. Anyway, I digress. But that being said, thank you so much for watching. And as always, play your games and be good to each other. And also, may your heart be your guiding key.
And so can you.